Hello. In this video, we are going to talk about most common electrolyte imbalance, that is hypernatremia, which we encounter in our clinical practice. Now, what is hypernatremia? Hypernatremia is increase in sodium concentration above normal. What is normal sodium concentration is 135 to 145 milliequivalents per liter. Okay, when sodium concentration is above 145, it is called as hypernatremia. Now, what hypernatremia means is that once the sodium concentration increases above 145, it makes the blood hypertonic. Hypertonic means the tonicity of the plasma increases. As a result, what happens is that when the tonicity of the plasma increases, the fluid which is present in the intracellular compartment shifts to the extracellular compartment. When the fluid shifts from intracellular compartment to extracellular, there is at the cellular level there is dehydration. When the cell is dehydrated, it cannot function normally. As a result, energy production by the cell stops, resulting in various features of hypernatremia such as seizures, then altered sensorium, etc. So what is important in determining the cause of hypernatremia as well as treatment of hypernatremia is most important thing which we need to know is the volume status of the patient. Whenever you see any patient whose electrolyte is more than sodium is more than 145, you need to look for the volume status. Now, what are the indicators of volume status is that when the patient is dehydrated, you will find various features of dehydration. Features of dehydration are decreased sweating, dry tongue, sunken eyes, skin pinch. Now, normal skin pinch should go back within 1 second. Whenever it takes about 2 seconds or about 5 seconds when it is severely dehydrated, the skin turgor is low. As a result, skin pinch test is positive. So skin pinch, there is delay in the skin going back to normal, indicates dehydration. The thing is orthostatic hypotension, that is postural drop present. Whenever you check BP in lying down position and then check the BP immediately after standing after 1 minute and at the end of 3 minutes. At the end of 3 minutes, if the fall in the systolic blood pressure is more than 20 and diastolic blood pressure fall more than 10 millimeters, indicates there is orthostatic hypotension. Another feature is tachycardia. Then decreased urine output. If these features are present, that means the patient is dehydrated. What are the features of hypervolemia? Is presence of edema. It could be pedal edema, sacral edema, facial edema. Presence of fine crepes on RS exam. Presence of LVS3. So these three features indicate hypervolemia. Or presence of any effusion like pleural effusion or ascites or pericardial effusion. Okay, then isovolemia is a normal person. So whenever you see anybody's electrolyte which is more than 145, you check for the volume status, whether patient is dehydrated, hypervolemic or euvolemic. So there are types of hypernatremia based on the volume status of the patient. Now, if the volume of status of the patient is low, it is hypovolemic hypernatremia. Okay, or if the patient's volume status is high, that is hypervolemic hypernatremia. Or if the volume status is normal, that is isovolemic hypernat. So we'll study all these three together, looking at the differences so that we can clinically differentiate all these three together. So in hypovolemic hypernatremia, as the name suggests, that the total volume is reduced. So to reduce the volume, what has to happen is that more important is loss of water. Okay, so there is in the body there is loss of water. However, water cannot go alone. Water takes along with it sodium. So what happens is that the loss in water is very high compared to sodium. As a result, what happens in the total body concentration is that the volume loss is more. So the sodium concentration in the serum increases even though there is loss of sodium. So we'll draw a graph about that so that we can understand easily. So this is the sodium concentration, this is the volume. So as we all know, the normal fluid, that is the volume status of the body, the maximum fluid is distributed in the intracellular space. So this is the intracellular fluid. Okay, the extracellular fluid is very minimal. Okay, this is extracellular fluid. So what happens in hypovolemic hypernatremia is that there is loss of volume. So the volume reduces this much. If there is this much loss of volume, the sodium increases by this much. Okay, so what the body does in response to this is that because the extracellular fluid volume is reduced, the fluid from the intracellular space goes on diffuses to the extracellular space. As a result, what happens, the volume of the intracellular compartment reduces, but the sodium concentration equalizes on both the sides. As a result, the new graph what we get is that there is reduction in extracellular space, reduction in intracellular fluid, and increase in sodium concentration. So this is the new graph which we get after there is more loss of water compared to sodium. So what are the causes of loss of sodium and water? So loss could be renal or extrarenal. So first we will see about extrarenal. So extrarenal losses could be because of excessive sweating, decreased intake of water, and third thing is due to GI losses. GI losses could be because of vomiting, because of diarrhea, etc. So one thing which is common is that in all these three, the blood reaching the kidneys is less because there is loss of fluid before the blood reaches the kidney, that is loss due to sweating, loss due to decreased intake, or GI losses. As a result, whenever the blood supply to the kidney reduces, you get urinary sodium which is less than 20. So the feature which is diagnostic of hypovolemic hyponatremia due to extrarenal cause is that urinary sodium is less than 20. Now in renal cause, what happens is that urinary sodium is more than 20. Okay, so the renal causes of fluid loss are due to osmotic diuresis. Osmotic diuresis means there is some substance which is present in the urine which is attracting more and more water. The substance could be glucose, that is in diabetic ketoacidosis you get hypovolemic hypernatremia because of osmotic diuresis, that is the fluid glucose which is excreted in the urine, along with it takes a lot of water. So that is osmotic diuresis. Also mannitol is another reason which causes osmotic diuresis. So apart from urinary sodium which is more than 20, another feature is that because this glucose as well as mannitols are solutes, so the osmolality of the urine increases. So the feature of hypovolemic hypernatremia due to renal cause is urinary sodium more than 20 with increased urine osmolality. So by this we can differentiate hypovolemic hypernatremia and its causes. So now in the basic pathophysiology of hypovolemic hypernatremia is loss of water. So how do you correct is by correcting the fluid deficit. So how to correct the fluid deficit we'll talk about once we finish these two type of hypernatremia. Now in hypervolemic hypernatremia, what has happened is that there is sodium as well as water retention. There is no loss. Here there is retention. As a result, the volume is increased. So the retention could be due to inappropriate administration of IV fluids or maybe inappropriate administration of soda bicarb. Okay. Soda bicarb, which is used for treatment of metabolic acidosis, or fluids may be used for various reasons. If they are not administered appropriately, there is increase in the total body sodium as well as water, resulting in hypervolemic hypernatremia. So if you see this diagram again, in hypervolemic, what has happened is that the extracellular fluid volume has increased because of administration of extra amount of fluid. Along with that, the fluid always contains sodium, so sodium also increases. So as a result, this becomes hypertonic. When it becomes hypertonic, what happens is that intracellular fluid shifts to extracellular. As a result, what happens, the intracellular volume again decreases and sodium equalizes on normal side. To equalize this, the intracellular fluid shifts to the extracellular space. As a result, the entire extracellular fluid increases, sodium increases. So what happens, so if there is increase in volume, so the basic treatment for this would be giving diuretics to the patient. Now hypervolemic hypernatremia can also occur due to mineralocorticoid excess. So this is seen in Cushing's, also seen in aldosterone excess. So hyperaldosteronism can also cause hypervolemic hypernatremia. Now isovolemic hypernatremia means the volume status of the patient is normal. Now volume status is normal, however, even though volume status is normal, why this isovolemic hypernatremia occurs is that in these patients there is deficiency of ADH. What ADH does is that it acts on the DCT. It acts on the DCT and helps in absorption of water. Now when ADH is not there, there is loss of water. Okay. Now if you see on the collecting duct as well as distal convoluted tubule, ADH action is mainly on water and minimal action on sodium, because maximum amount of sodium is reabsorbed from the PCT, loop of Henle, as well as proximal DCT. The distal DCT as well as the collecting duct helps in about 5% reabsorption of sodium, and maximum concentration of urine, that is reabsorption of water, is done by the collecting duct as well as the distal DCT. So whenever there is no ADH, what happens is that there is excessive loss of water. So even though there is excessive loss of water, the fluid status sometimes is maintained normal. The shift in the extracellular is maintained as it is. This is because why this is maintained is because the shift from the intracellular space, because first the fluid is lost. As a result, the sodium increases. Because the sodium increases, the intracellular fluid shifts to the extracellular compartment, normalizing the extracellular compartment back to the normal, reduction in the intracellular compartment again. So in such cases, the treatment is basically treatment of the absence of ADH, that is diabetes insipidus, treatment of diabetes insipidus. If it is central diabetes insipidus, you give desmopressin. If it is nephrogenic diabetes insipidus, you give thiazide diuretics. So now coming to basic treatment of management of hypernatremia. So in hypernatremia, what we learned in hypovolemic is that there is loss of water. In hypervolemic, basically I told you the treatment here, that is diuretic, because there is retention of sodium as well as water. In isovolemic is treatment of diabetes insipidus. So in hypovolemic hyponatremia, which is most commonly encountered, there are 3 steps in treatment. First step is calculate water deficit. Step 2 is calculate free water clearance. Step 3 is calculate insensible losses. Now add all all three and correct over 48 hours to 72 hours. So now whenever you correct any hypernatremia or hyponatremia, you cannot correct more than 10 milliequivalents in 24 hours, because if you correct more than 10 milliequivalents in 24 hours, it will cause cerebral edema, which is dangerous, which can also cause central pontine myelinolysis. So what we do is that we correct slowly over 48 to 72 hours. Now first, how to calculate water deficit. Water deficit is equal to total body water multiplied by sodium minus 140 divided by 140. Okay, you can also simplify this formula as 0.6 in males or 0.5 in females multiplied by weight, this into minus 1. So this will give you in liters. So the water deficit will be in liters. Now free water clearance is urinary volume, this multiplied by 1 minus here urinary electrolytes, that is urinary sodium plus urinary potassium divided by plasma sodium. So this will again be in liters. So insensible losses is equal to 10 ml per kg. If the patient is febrile, you have to take it as 15 ml. If the patient is on ventilator, you have to take 7 ml. So all these three together, so total deficit is equal to free water deficit plus free water clearance plus insensible losses. Suppose this comes around 4 liters. Now insensible losses are 10 ml per kg per day. So we are correcting for 48 hours. So we have to take 10 ml per kg for day 1, 10 ml per kg for day 2. So suppose if this is 4 liters. Now we have to correct this 4 liters in 48 hours. So what we will do is that we will divide it into 50% in 24 hours and next 50% in next 24 hours. Now how to correct this? There are two main ways of correcting it. That is, one is IV fluid, second one is give free water either via RT or oral. If patient is conscious, you give free water orally. Now what IV fluid we have to choose? Now if a patient has hypernatremia and if you give normal saline, that is 0.9% normal saline, there is high chances that you will increase the sodium concentration again by giving the fluid after correction of the dehydration. So the fluid what we use is that half normal saline, that is 0.45% NS, or we use 5% dextrose. So both are hypotonic, so we use them. So what we do is that if it is 4 liters, suppose it is 4 liters, so 2 liters we have to correct it in a day. So 2 liters if you have to correct it in a day, you can divide it further into 1 liter orally and 1 liter IV. So what you can do is 1 liter orally, that is either you can give him 200 ml every 4th hourly via RT, and then your fluid you can choose as 50-50%, that is 0.45% NS and 1.5% dextrose, both pints. These you can give over 24 hours. Then after you correct, after 24 hours, when you start correcting, every 6 to 8 hourly you have to monitor the sodium and recalculate again according to the response. If you reach within 24 hours, if the correction is about 10 milliequivalents, then you stop the correction at that point of time. Okay, if the correction is more than 10, then one thing you can do is that you can again induce hypernatremia by giving normal saline or 3%, NaCl. But most of the time what we do is we just wait and watch and repeat the electrolytes after 4 or 6 hours, and correction with inducing hypernatremia with normal saline or 3% NaCl is usually not required. Now in first 24 hours, if the correction is less than 10 milliequivalents and those response is adequate, that then in the next 24 hours, based on the values after 12 hours and 24 hours, you recalculate and again start from here, start from this step, that is calculate total deficit, free water deficit, free water clearance, and insensible losses. So with this we complete hypernatremia. So summarizing hypernatremia is that sodium concentration more than 145 milliequivalents is hypernatremia. So whenever you get a patient with hypernatremia, you decide whether the patient is hypovolemic, hypervolemic or isovolemic. If the patient is hypervolemic, the treatment is with diuretic. If the patient is isovolemic, the treatment is treatment of ADH and ADH deficiency. If the patient is hypovolemic, then you need to determine the cause, whether the cause is renal or extrarenal. If it is renal, it is usually due to osmotic diuresis, that is due to glucose or mannitol. If you correct the cause, the hypernatremia is corrected. For extrarenal, the cause may be sweating, decreased intake or GI losses. Diagnosis is by urinary sodium less than 20. So whenever the patient is hypovolemic hypernatremia, you calculate water deficit, then you calculate free water clearance, then you calculate insensible losses, add all these three, you will get the total water deficit using these formulas. So once you get the total deficit, you divide it into 50% 50% correction in first 24 hours, next 50% in next 24 hours. 50% would be 50% oral, 50% IV. So IV fluids of choice are half normal saline or 5% dextrose, and whenever you give free water, you give it via RT or orally. Okay, thank you.